You've been negotiating your position in every room you've ever walked into. You just never called it that. The parent who decides whose feelings get airtime at dinner. The manager who decides whose idea counts as the team's idea. The friend who never raises their voice and somehow always gets the last word. Power isn't a throne, or a title, or a boardroom. It's the invisible current running under every relationship you have, deciding who bends and who doesn't. The historian who spent years cataloging every dirty trick ever used to seize it and keep it. The political scientist who discovered dictators don't fall to uprisings, they fall to unpaid soldiers. The propagandist who figured out you don't need to change what people believe, just what they see first. The Roman emperor who had more power than almost any man alive, and used it to write himself a permission slip to stay human. None of them found a way to make power disappear. They found something more useful than that. These 10 books are what they found. And the number 1 pick isn't a power book at all. I ranked these by how much they actually change the way you see power operating around you, not by how many copies they sold. And for each one, I'm going to break down the actual ideas inside. Not just the title and a one-line summary. Number 10. The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Greene's core argument, assembled from 3,000 years of history, from Renaissance courts to Cold War espionage, is that power operates by consistent, learnable rules. Whether or not the people using them ever wrote them down. His key concept is the law itself as a unit of analysis. Each one distilled from repeated historical patterns, not moral advice. Law 1, never outshine the master. Law 3, conceal your intentions. Law 15, crush your enemy totally. And Greene is explicit that he isn't telling you whether to follow them, only showing you that everyone around you already is, whether they know it or not. A concrete example he gives. A courtier at the court of Louis XIV becomes so visibly, effortlessly brilliant that the king, whose entire identity rests on being the most dazzling man in the room, has him arrested within weeks. And Greene uses it to show that talent displayed without regard for the ego above it isn't rewarded, it's treated as a threat. Link to grab this one is in the description, timestamped below. Number 9. The Prince by Niccolò Machiavelli. Machiavelli's core argument, written as a survival manual for a deposed Florentine official trying to get back into political favor, is that a ruler who insists on always being good will be destroyed by the many who are not. So effectiveness has to be evaluated separately from virtue. His key concept is the split between how people ought to act and how they actually do. Captured in his famous line about whether it is better to be loved or feared. And his answer, that both would be ideal, but since you rarely get both, it's safer to be feared, because love depends on other people's goodwill, and fear depends only on you. A concrete example he gives. Cesare Borgia hands a brutal, hated official total control over a lawless province, lets him restore order through sheer terror, then publicly executes that same official and displays his body in the town square. Instantly transferring the province's hatred away from Borgia himself and onto the man who did his dirty work. What makes this book different from the 48 Laws of Power is that Greene is compiling patterns observed across history from the outside, while Machiavelli is writing from inside the actual machinery of a government trying not to collapse, with his own neck on the line. Link is in the description. Number 8. Power, Why Some People Have It and Others Don't by Jeffrey Pfeffer. Pfeffer's core argument, built from decades teaching organizational behavior at Stanford, is that most people lose power not because they lack talent, but because they were raised to believe competence alone gets noticed and rewarded. His key concept is that power is a skill, not a trait. Built from a specific set of behaviors. Self-awareness about your own strengths and blind spots. Building a broad network before you need it, not after. Controlling and managing the flow of information. And projecting confidence even in moments you don't fully feel it. And Pfeffer argues that people who master these behaviors reliably outperform more talented peers who simply assumed the work would speak for itself. A concrete example he gives. 2 equally capable employees are up for the same promotion, one quietly does excellent work and waits to be recognized, The other builds visible relationships with decision-makers across the company well before the opening exists. And Pfeffer shows the second one wins almost every time, not because the work was better, but because power had already been distributed in her favor before the decision was even made. What makes this book different from The Prince is that Machiavelli is writing about power at the level of a state, while Pfeffer is showing that the exact same dynamics, alliance building, information control, projected confidence, operate identically inside a mid-sized marketing department. Grab it using the link below. Number 7. The Dictator's Handbook by Bruce Bueno de Mesquita and Alistair Smith. Bueno de Mesquita and Smith's core argument, drawn from political science modeling of regimes across history, is that leaders, dictators, and democrats alike don't actually govern for the people. They govern for whichever small group can remove them from power, and everything else follows from that one fact. Their key concept is selectorate theory, the idea that every leader depends on a winning coalition. The smallest group of people whose support is required to stay in charge, and that a leader's cruelty or generosity has nothing to do with their character and everything to do with how large or small that coalition is. Small coalitions reward loyalty with bribes and violence. Large coalitions are forced to deliver actual public goods to survive. A concrete example they give: a resource-rich dictatorship deliberately underfunds roads, schools, and hospitals, not out of incompetence, but because a poor, dependent population is easier to control than an educated, mobile one. While the tiny circle of generals and ministers who keep the dictator in power get lavish private payouts instead. What makes this book different from Power, why some people have it and others don't, is that Pfeffer is teaching an individual how to acquire power inside an existing system, while Bueno de Mesquita and Smith are exposing the invisible mathematics of the system itself, the one that decides why entire nations get run the way they do. Links in the description. Number 6. Propaganda by Edward Bernays. Bernays' core argument, written by the man who essentially invented modern public relations, is that in a mass society, the opinions and habits of the many are, and always must be, quietly organized by a small number of people who understand the mechanics of group psychology. His key concept is the engineering of consent, the practice of shaping public desire not by argument, but by attaching a product, a politician, or an idea to something people already unconsciously want. Status, freedom, safety, belonging. So that choosing it feels like the person's own idea, not something they were maneuvered into. A concrete example he gives: a cigarette company wanting to sell more to women doesn't run an advertisement about cigarettes at all. It stages a march of fashionable young women publicly smoking in a parade, framing each cigarette as a torch of freedom. And Bernays shows the campaign worked precisely because it never asked anyone to buy anything, it simply let people believe they were choosing liberation. What makes this book different from The Dictator's Handbook is that Bueno de Mesquita and Smith are explaining how leaders stay in power through coalitions and force, while Bernays is explaining the quieter version of the same thing, how power gets exercised over millions of people who never feel controlled at all. Link is in the description. Number 5. The Charisma Myth by Olivia Fox Cabane. Cabane's core argument, drawn from coaching executives and researching the psychology of influence, is that charisma isn't a fixed trait some people are born with, it's a specific, learnable set of behaviors that signal power and warmth at the same time. Her key concept is the 3 components of charismatic presence. Presence, being fully mentally there in the interaction instead of distracted by your own head. Power, projecting the ability to affect the world around you. And warmth, signaling genuine goodwill toward the person in front of you. And Cabane argues most people default to only one, usually power or warmth, when the actual leverage comes from holding both at once. A concrete example she gives: a nervous executive walking into a high-stakes meeting practices a simple physical shift, dropping his shoulders and slowing his exhale before he enters the room, and the people inside later describe him as noticeably more commanding, without him having said a single new word. Which Cabane uses to show that a huge amount of perceived power is read directly off the body before anyone processes the content of what's said. What makes this book different from propaganda is that Bernays is engineering consent across an anonymous mass audience, while Cobain is teaching the same underlying psychology scaled down to a single handshake, a single room, a single conversation where you are the message. Links in the description. Number 4. Power, for All by Julie Battilana and Tiziana Cassiaro. Battilana and Cassiaro's core argument, built from years of research at Harvard Business School, is that most people quietly treat power as something dirty, best left to other people, and that avoidance is itself a decision that hands power to whoever has no such hesitation. Their key concept is that power is simply the ability to influence others' behavior, nothing more sinister than that. And it flows from two resources anyone can build: being seen as useful to a group's goals, and being seen as similar to, or well-liked by, that group. Meaning power isn't reserved for the ruthless, it's available to anyone willing to actually pursue it deliberately instead of hoping it arrives as a reward for good behavior. A concrete example they give: a hospital nurse with no formal authority becomes the most influential person on her floor, not through title, but by making herself indispensable to doctors' workflow while staying visibly warm and trusted by the rest of the staff. And the authors use it to show that formal rank and actual influence are frequently two completely separate currencies. What makes this book different from the charisma myth is that Cobain is teaching the individual performance of power, presence, tone, posture, while Battilana and Cassiaro are mapping the structural resources underneath that performance, the actual reasons a group grants someone influence in the first place. Link is in the description. Number 3. Moral Man and Immoral Society by Reinhold Niebuhr. Niebuhr's core argument, written by a theologian watching the rise of fascism in real time, is that individuals are capable of real moral restraint, but groups, nations, classes, mobs, are almost never restrained by the same conscience, because a group's self-interest gets mistaken for righteousness. His key concept is the split between individual and collective morality. A person will often sacrifice their own advantage for someone else's sake. But that same person, folded into a nation or a party, will justify cruelty on behalf of the group that they would never commit alone. Because the group provides moral cover the individual conscience can't see past. A concrete example he gives: a mild-mannered citizen who would never personally strike a stranger votes enthusiastically for a war or a policy that will harm thousands of strangers he'll never meet, experiencing no personal guilt at all, because the harm has been laundered through the abstraction of the nation or the cause. What makes this book different from Power, for All is that Battilana and Cassiaro are showing how an individual can responsibly acquire influence inside a group, while Niebuhr is warning about what happens to morality itself the moment power shifts from an individual holding it to a group wielding it collectively. Links below. Number 2. The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt. Haidt's core argument, drawn from research across moral psychology, is that human beings didn't evolve to reason our way to the truth, we evolved to bond with our tribe and justify whatever keeps us inside it. Which means power over a group is rarely won with better arguments, it's won by whoever best signals loyalty to the group's sacred values. His key concept is that reason is the press secretary of the intuitive mind. Moral judgments arrive first, instantly and emotionally, and reasoning shows up milliseconds later just to build a case for the verdict that was already reached. Which is why presenting someone with better facts so rarely changes a deeply held political or moral position. A concrete example he gives: two people watch the exact same news clip and each walks away with their prior belief not just intact, but strengthened, because both processed the same information through a different moral matrix that decided in advance what would count as evidence. And Haidt shows this is precisely the terrain every leader, preacher, and demagogue is actually operating on when they seem to be arguing. What makes this book different from Moral Man and Immoral Society is that Niebuhr is diagnosing what groups do once they already have power, while Haidt is explaining the underlying psychological wiring that decides which leaders and movements a group grants power to in the first place. Link is in the description. And number 1. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Unlike every other book on this list, this one isn't a power book at all. It's the private notebook of a Roman emperor, the single most powerful man alive at the time, never intended for anyone else to read. Marcus Aurelius' central claim is that external power, armies, titles, an empire stretching across 3 continents, changes nothing about the one place a person actually has to live, which is inside their own mind. And that the only power worth mastering is the power over your own judgments, reactions, and desires. His key concept is the dichotomy of control. The discipline of sorting everything in life into 2 piles: what is within your power, your own thoughts, choices, and responses, and what is not, other people's opinions, events, outcomes, even your own reputation. And directing all your effort exclusively at the first pile, because effort spent on the second is simply effort wasted. A concrete image he returns to. The emperor of the known world writes to himself before dawn, reminding himself that the difficult, ungrateful, dishonest people he's about to face that day are not obstacles to his power, they're the exact material his power was given to him to work on. And that losing his temper at them would hand them a victory no army could ever take from him. What makes this book the definitive number 1 on this list is that every other title here is teaching you how to acquire, project, or navigate power over other people. Marcus Aurelius already had all of that power, more than anyone reading this ever will, and used his private notebook to conclude it was the least important power he held. Proving that the throne was never the real seat of control, the mind sitting on it was. Link is in the description. The number 1 pick proves something simple. Power over others is loud and easy to chase. Power over yourself is quiet. And it's the only kind no one can ever take from you. Which of these have you read, and which one changed how you think about power? Drop it in the comments. Next video, 10 books that will completely rewire how you think about starting a business.